Hello, time to talk about peyote stitch. First of all, as you can see here, don't cut your thread end of the spool. Thread your needle, then pull a little bit of thread out of your spool, put the spool to the side, wrap your thread around your index finger of your non-dominant hand, see, and then hold the thread between your thumb and your middle finger, like this. And then you string your beads and put them in that position between your thumb and your index finger here. See, I strung an even number of beads, so I strung 8 beads in my color A, and the thread is under tension, as you can see. Now I string 1 bead in my color B, the silver bead, you see, and I was skipping the first bead and then passed through the next bead. And that's peyote stitch. So you see here, everything under tension. So you always string a new bead, skip 1 bead of the previous row, and then pull it tight. And the new bead is lying next to the bead that you skipped. See here, I'm holding the thread under tension with my ring finger, pressing the thread onto my middle finger. And again, string 1 bead, skip a bead, pass to the next one, and then hold it again. Hold your thread under tension. See, always moving with your beadwork. Now we have the last bead. We string 1 bead, skip 1 bead, pass through the last one. And you see here, this is the typical view of a peyote row. You always have every second bead sticking out. You see, and we added 4 new beads. Our first row had 8 beads, so we only added half of the beads of our starting row. Now we add another row with silver beads because every peyote row is a 4th row and a back row. Now we're making the back row. And I'm always just passing through the sticking up silver beads and adding new beads right in front of them. String a bead, pass through the next sticking up bead, which means that you're skipping a bead underneath. A blue bead, that is. See, string a bead, skip a bead, pass through the next sticking up bead. That's the whole thing about peyote stitch. We do that again. See, all my fingers have a job here. String a bead, skip the first bead, pass through the second sticking up bead, string a bead, pass through the next sticking up bead, and so on. If you start working with peyote, just take bigger beads. The best are beads that are a little bit more cylindric, or these are size 8 beads, seed beads. Just always take a bigger bead so that it's easier for you to see where the beads are going. But the important thing, especially with peyote stitch, is that your first row is really good, and therefore I recommend to try the way I'm holding the thread here, because that's really making your life easier, that you have a good tension on your working thread and counter tension on the other thread. So let's start odd count peyote, because that has a little other turn on the other end. It starts the same way. You string a bead, skip a bead of the previous row and go to the next one. That's the same thing here. But here I only have 7 beads in my starting row. So as you will see, when we're coming to the end of the row, suddenly for my last bead, when I string a bead now, there is no bead that I can pass through, because I would have to skip the one and I can't pass through another bead. So what am I doing? Instead of skipping the last bead, I'm also weaving through the last bead. So I'm weaving through the last 2 beads here at once. Then I string my 1 bead and I add the bead in a back stitch. So I'm going back in direction of my center here to add this 1 bead. So now the bead is added and it's fixed, but my thread is exiting somewhere in the middle of the row. Now I have to get back to my starting position. My starting position would be that I exit from that silver bead, going back to the center. And I can weave in a turn, like an 8 turn, along these last 5 beads here. You see, I'm going further down through that left-hand blue bead. Then I'm weaving up through the silver bead here. And then I'm going through the following 2 blue beads That's where I was exiting from in the beginning. Remember that? And then I can enter my silver bead, the first silver bead. So this is a little turn that you make here in the end. I will show that to you again. But now we're just adding the next row. And in the next row, we add our silver beads in between. And you see here at the end of this row, I have a normal situation. I have a sticking up bead as the last bead, so everything is fine. Let's go back to the other side. So I'm adding my blue beads here, starting my next blue row, and then I pass through the last 2 beads. And then I string 1 blue bead, and I pass down through the second silver bead here and directly into the third silver bead. See, like this little A-turn. Now I'm weaving up through the blue bead and the 2 silver beads. Okay, and now I'm in the right position to enter my first bead again, to go down. And then I can add my blue beads. There are different versions how to make a turn in odd count peyote. This is the way that I make my turn. I hope you like this little introduction. There will be more things about peyote stitch because it's a very, very versatile stitch. See you next time. Bye-bye.